Call the meeting to order. City of Anamosa City Council, agenda regular session, Monday, May 11th, 2020, 6 p.m., City Hall Council Chambers, 1.0, roll call.
Crump,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
Lockhart,
Here.
Zumba,
Here.
Stout,
Here.
Capron,
Here.
2.0, Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rebecca, would you please give a brief statement on the public accessing for comments?
Absolutely. So for those of you who've joined us at tonight's council meeting, if you're joining with a computer and you would like to speak on an issue that's before the council tonight, you can either send me a chat in the chat box, which you should see that option at some point. I'll also send out a chat to everybody, so that will at least activate for everyone. The other way that those participating on a computer can let me know they want to talk is by raising your hand, and you can do that by clicking on, should be a participants button somewhere if you're on your desktop. If you're on a mobile device, you may just see raise your hand as an option. But for those on the computer, click on participants. That should bring up a list where you can see yourself and everybody else participating. There should also be a button that says raise hand. And if you click on that, I will know that you'd like to speak, and I will let you know when I have unmuted you and it's your turn. For the people who have called in on their phone, which I see that there is at least one person who has done that, you can raise your hand by on the phone's keypad dialing in *9, and that should let me know that you would like to speak. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Rebecca. And as always, thank you for leading the charge with tonight's virtual meeting.
You bet.
3.0, agenda approval.
Move to approve. Second.
Was the motion by Rich?
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks, Rich. Okay, motion to approve the agenda by Rich, second by John. Every vote tonight will be a roll vote. So, Beth?
Capron,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yeah.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Motion to approve the agenda was unanimous. 4.0, motion to approve the minutes from the following meetings. 4.1, April 27th, 2020, regular council meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Alan to approve the meeting, or minutes from the meeting. Is there any further discussion? Beth?
Stout,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Capron,
Yes.
Motion to approve council meeting minutes was unanimous. 5.0, public hearings, none. 6.0, proclamations, none. 7.0, old business. 7.1, set dates for elected official training on May 20th and May 21st.
just because these are officially public meetings, I wanted you guys to have a motion and vote on to set those.
Jacob, you're a little
Jacob,
quiet.
could you speak up?
Sorry, just because those are public meetings, I wanted to go ahead and have this on the agenda for a vote to set those dates.
What's the times?
6 o'clock, both nights. They should last roughly 90 minutes. The intention is for the council to meet in person, but we will have it broadcast for the public to view if they wish.
Is there a reason it needs to be in person that we can't do it this way?
It was just a recommendation of the city attorney that he felt it would be better for conveying the information. He wasn't set in stone or adamant about it, but that was his preference.
I mean, if it's a public meeting, I don't know.
Is there an agenda established for the meetings?
No, there's not. It would just be the training. There wouldn't be any action.
No, I don't mean that kind of an agenda. Do you have what we're going to talk about, what we're going to study at the time of the?
I have a rough idea. I mean, discussed it for several months with the city attorney because we originally planned to do this early this year. I don't. He's just going to go through kind of the legal responsibilities and concepts that the council should be aware of. Open meeting law, a wide variety of things I can't list right off the top of my head, but he has a firm idea of what he's doing. He does this for other clients as well.
I see.
Well, let me ask you this. Just in case there's some members who do not want to be present and they want to do it remotely, is that a feasible thing?
I think it would be feasible because, again, we'd be planning to broadcast it to the public using Zoom like we are right now, and the council could jump on. Again, I think it was just a preference from the attorney.
Well,
Now, I don't think I can come in yet.
I should add, I don't. I meant to discuss this with Rebecca already, but I did not. So I'm not committing to this. But my preference would be to hold this at the library, just because it allows us to spread out a little bit more for those that are in person, and probably better audio-visual equipment for us. But again, I don't. That would be my preference. That's not set in stone yet.
Well, I like the library idea.
I'm fine.
I'll move on it. I move that we accept the meeting on May 20th and May 21st, starting at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Starting at 6 o'clock.
So we have a motion by Alan to approve the training dates of May 20th and May 21st, 6 p.m. at the library. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Motion was second by Galen. Any further council discussion? Beth?
Smith,
Yes.
Crum. Crum.
No.
Lockhart,
Yes, but I won't be able to make it to the library.
Okay.
Summa,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Capron,
Yes.
I might count the motion for the training dates carried, 5 in favor, 1 opposed. 8.0, new business. Resolution approving payment of subcontractor claims related to settlement agreement with Kalachi Construction for water treatment plant expansion project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve, approving the payment of the subcontractors claims with Kalachi Construction. Motion by Rich, second by Ellen. Any further council discussion?
I kind of read through this now. The people that are bonded, they'll get their money sooner or later too.
Yes.
It's just gonna take a little while longer.
Yeah, unfortunately, it'll be a little bit of a hassle with them that they're going to have to work with Kalachi to come to either a settled agreement on what that amount is. I guess if they can't, I mean, they'll have to go down legal recourse, and I wish it wasn't that way, but it's really outside of our hands.
I guess
And Kalachi determined who would get.
Kalachi chose which subcontractors they were going to pay, and then we're paying the remainder. That
we had
lower amount.
we had no input as to which ones they chose to pay, because I mean that the one in particular tax-paying business in Anamosa is going to have to go through the long drawn-out process, where as opposed to a lot of these out-of-town companies are going to get paid right now. To me, that just doesn't seem quite right.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and I think it's unfortunate, but really they chose, and I think part of it came down to they chose some of the ones that they had disputes with in terms of the amount owed. That's why they're bonded. If they agreed on what was owed, they just pay it. But so if we got them on our list, we'd be in the same situation. We've got a list of amounts that we understand is what is owed, and if that amount isn't correct, then we'd either have to pay the full amount or negotiate on what amount is owed. So the amount above this would change the calculations in terms of who's responsible for what amount. And I think they essentially chose the ones that they had disputes about to make sure that essentially the math worked out. And they also then hold the burden if the subcontractors are able to prove that they owe an increased amount, then Kalachi's picking up that. We're not. We've already received several lien waivers for these contractors listed. And again, that's a contingency before they get paid that we receive those. They've been waiting for a while, so I assume they're going to get them in pretty quick. We've got 5 or 6 already.
Any further discussion from the council? Rebecca, is there any public comment?
None that I can see at this time.
Beth, roll call.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Capron,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Crum,
Yes.
Motion for payment of subcontractors was unanimous. 8.2, resolution setting the date for the public hearing on application for community development block grant funds for downtown revitalization.
This is just part of the process for us submitting this grant application to have this public hearing, and there will be additional action items at this next meeting. But we have to set the date for the public hearing.
And this doesn't commit us to anything other than setting the public hearing, is that correct?
This specific resolution does not.
So then I move we set the city hearing on May 26, 2020 at 6:00 PM.
Second.
Motion to set the public hearing date for May 26 by Kay, second by Rich.
That should be May 25th, if it's a Monday.
No, it is.
That'd be Memorial
so-
Day.
Memorial Day.
You're right.
Yep.
My bad.
Any further discussion on the council? Any public comment, Rebecca?
I do not see any.
Beth?
Lockhart,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Crum,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Capron,
Yes.
Motion to set date was unanimous. 8.3, resolution ratifying tentative agreement with Teamsters Local 238.
Would the council like me to go through the parts of the agreement, or are you comfortable with prior explanations?
So one thing, if this is approved tonight, it will be pending some final decisions on the sergeants.
The sergeant's wages are the only thing that aren't included in here. They've agreed to hold that as a separate item to be negotiated so that we can get this done. Because that was a recent ruling from PERB that the sergeant is included in the bargaining unit. So we don't feel that it affects anything here. We can get this approved and add that in later.
This is retroactive, or is it just start when we approve
This
it?
would be effective July 1.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve the agreement by Alan, second by Kay. Council discussion? Public comment?
I do not see any at this time.
Good, Beth.
Capron,
Yes.
Crum,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Motion to approve the tentative agreement carried unanimous. 8.4, discussion and possible action on Sycamore Street improvements.
This agenda item was added because a citizen had requested that it be discussed. His concern was with the proposed improvements to the street that would include narrowing the width of the street, the paved portion of the street. I'm not sure. He didn't seem that he was planning to speak, but I mean, if he's on, I would let him talk. Otherwise, I think he really wanted the council to discuss it. So we can go from there.
How narrow are they going? Are they going with the eastern part, or are they going with the western part? From Davis, I'm talking,
It's very different, isn't it?
yes. The eastern part of Sycamore is narrower the excuse me, the western part of Sycamore is narrower with no curb on one side. And the eastern part has curbs on both sides and it's wider than the western part.
Mhm.
The curbs don't line up. What are you gonna put a bend in there?
There is a bend in there. It's terrible. When-
Because the one curb, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
but the one curb lines up with the east side or the south side,
Yes.
and then you go to the other end, the curb lines up with the north side. So, you know, I want an idea of how it's going in there.
I'm just going to check really quick before I answer. But Rebecca, is Greg on the call?
I don't see him unless he, there's one person who called in by phone, but I don't know his number.
Okay. Well, anyway, if I understand correctly, I think the plan is to narrow it 3 feet on each side.
But then it will be more narrow on the south side than the street coming from the high school.
You understand what I'm saying? Or you're gonna have to either narrow it in a crooked way because it's got a bend in it.
Mhm.
I guess
I'll tell you, from my aspect, the simplest solution is to leave it as it is.
I would agree.
I agree. I mean, we have a lot of odd streets like that, and it's, I mean, you know, another prime example is you go from North Ford to South Ford right there on Main. Those don't line up. You know, they
Yeah.
never have, probably never will. I mean, I think the most cost effective is what we do on other streets: grind it down, re-blacktop it, and that section needs new curb and gutter, and leave it at that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
It definitely
nobody
needs
has,
that, but
well, nobody's answered my question of if we narrow it 3 feet, what's happening to the grade coming off of the banks because everything's raised on that short street? What's happening when that comes down if it flattens out and that 3 feet on each side is compacted? Is that going to grow grass? Is it going to be mud? What's going to happen there? Nobody's answered that question for me.
I mean,
What's the cost to do this? And the other thing is, has there been a letter, Jacob, you and I talked about this 2 months ago, has a letter been sent to everybody in that neighborhood yet, letting them know that there's potential and they may have to change the grade of their driveways?
Well, every resident that's in that block does not want it narrowed.
No.
And
But-
I feel like the people that are going to have to deal with the change should have a say in it.
so
Well, I do.
I apologize,
Jeff,
Rich. I apologize, Rich. Those letters haven't gone out. That was just a mistake. But still, I don't understand any of the rationale that's being presented. Provided quite a bit of evidence that I can go through again in my memo on why this is a factually based proposal. I guess we're putting the additional cost to keep this street width on every other taxpayer just because, you know, a few residents want it. I understand why they want it, but that doesn't mean, I mean, we don't give every resident what they want. You know, if everybody wanted a 40-foot street, we'd bankrupt the city.
Well,
It just
Jacob,
makes
let
sense
me
when
ask
we're doing a project that includes curb and re-asphalt that we go ahead and make the street the right width.
I don't
So,
agree. I think
what's-
it's a dangerous thing because if you're coming up the street from the high school, the way that street curves, you can't see over the hump. And if there are cars parked on a more narrow street, it seems to me like it's dangerous because with the driveways going up the street, kind of up a grade, people park on that street on both sides all the time. I walk the dogs there 2 or 3 times a day.
Well, and what truly is the cost of narrowing the street? What is the cost of that?
I mean, I'd like to know, I'd be willing to bet it's going to be more to narrow it than it would just be to overlay the wider section. Because you're
Right.
It should be less because we're paying for less pavement.
Yeah, but you still got to dig out, you got to grind out, you got to lay down the new curb, you got to put in the new seating. And I'm sorry, but if we're changing the slope of people's driveways, I don't feel that they should be the ones paying for it because of what we did.
But then they're going to have half their driveway that's redone. Maybe they don't have the money or care to have to redo the rest, and they're not going to tie in very well. Old cement versus new cement. I mean, we're opening a can of worms here. I mean, there's other odd streets. Are we going to start redoing them too? I mean, completely. I think we should just, like we've been talking, grind it down on new curb and gutter.
If we had a street, comparable width that needed a resurfacing as bad as this did, I would be proposing the same thing for the same reasons that I listed in my memo.
So when Lynn Street needs to be redone, we're gonna narrow it also then? Is what I hear you saying?
Is it I don't know how wide it is.
It's very wide.
Or 3rd Street, or South Scott. Does it need to be 4-lane all the way?
I guess if you're bringing it up, I have proposed before that should be converted to a 2-lane with a turn, but that wasn't favorable either. And so, no, I mean, if it remains a 4-lane, you're not going to narrow that. It's a different type of street. It's not a neighborhood street like this is.
Well, I understand that, but it's still. I live
But as
on
Rich stated,
a
you
one-lane
change our
street.
driveways, and we got to totally tear our drive out to meet the street now. What's that cost going to be? I don't assume the city's going to pay for it. And that's going to change our angle totally on our drive. And the others that are on this street, the 3 on the same side as us. That's going to be totally changing the angle. And that's going to have to turn the whole drive out to the garage and redoing it. It just don't make sense.
You know what the linear,
I just think
Go
right
ahead.
now, well, I just think right now, narrowing that street is not solving anything. There hasn't been any accidents on that street that I know of in 30 or 40 years. I'm not sure what the whole purpose of pushing to get it done really is. And I heard at one time it was because they didn't want to run the snowplows one more time up that short block. And if that's the case, then we can talk to the old guys who used to plow the snow and how they did it to get the snow off the street and make it work.
what is the linear footage of the proposed street that we're looking to narrow?
I'd have to look it up.
You can hop on Beacon and measure it out with the ruler.
Is it 38?
Are you talking the width or the length?
No, the length,
Oh, the length.
total linear
Yeah, I
length.
don't know the length of it. It's 38 feet wide roughly.
And it's 34 feet wide roughly further down the hill toward the high school.
And then there's another section that you're saying
That's
is even
narrow.
narrower, yeah.
Yeah.
Galen.
But no matter
West side of it, west side of
what you
it,
do,
there's
no
no,
matter what you do, the streets are never going to line up
No.
unless you tear out from Huber Street to Old Dubuque Road.
Right.
That's the only way they're ever going to line up.
Well, and then on top of that, if you narrow that, what are you doing about the sidewalks and being ADA compliant?
So they're not going to be, basically they'll be better, but not extremely better, because what it'll allow us space, that 3 feet does give us space to put an ADA compliant ramp at the corner, the northwest corner of Williams and Sycamore. So we'll have the ramp there. You won't be able to continue north because you're going to have those steps like there are right now. but what it'll at least be able to round the corner and cross one way or the other, east or west, where it's more easily able to get flat sidewalk there. There's not currently sidewalk on the eastern side of Williams, but if we got that installed, you'd have a route to go if you were handicap accessible or handicapped. But I guess I think it makes it better, not substantially better. If you keep it the same width, you're stuck in the same situation you are now. You can't even get up on the curb.
So you're basically putting a cement pad there for them to come across and turn.
That would be the idea.
And does that conform to ADA guidelines? The not being able to use the sidewalk?
I don't think it does. No.
Right.
But
Does that create a problem because we're going to have that pad there for them to cross over to, but no sidewalk for them to actually be able to use?
I guess I feel pretty good about the argument that we've improved the situation, and at least they have a place to cross to. And before, again, they wouldn't have that.
But then they're going to have to run right down the street with a wheelchair, nowhere to go. And since the middle school went there, that's one of the busiest streets in the day. There's a lot of kids, people cutting to 151 to go to work and everything else. It's a very busy street now with them schools, and just narrowing it is going to make more problems.
Well, speaking of sidewalks,
And when you close,
there's no sidewalk in the south. I mean, if you look at the southeast quadrant of that section we're talking about, and there's no sidewalk there, it just stops on the east half of the south side, or the west half of the south side, it stops.
And if we close that intersection out there at 151, a lot of the people coming in from the north will cut over to Cass Highway, and then they'll cut across right through there. High school and middle school people. 'Cause that's what they do.
I'll tell you, at this stage, I just don't think it's a wise idea to narrow that block. I think we need to leave it alone for a while and see what happens for the future with that traffic flow.
Again, that's not going to get attention for 20, 30, hopefully longer years. I think it's something we want to get right. And when national studies show that narrower neighborhood streets lead to slower speeds, less dangerous streets, that's where my recommendation is going to stay. But
You know, and I would agree with that if it was 8 blocks long, but we're talking 1 block. Nobody's going to pull up there and, oh, I'm on a wider street for 1 block and stomp down on the gas. That's
And then you got
not going to happen.
stop signs both ways too.
So I really think at this present time, that street's been that way for as long as I can remember. I think we ought to leave it alone.
I feel it's safer wider because if you're coming from the high school or the middle school, coming up that grade, there's a space that you can't see over. And I think it's safer to be a little wider there.
Well, here's what I'm willing to, I'm going to make the motion to leave the street the same width as it currently is, have it fixed, have the curb and gutter fixed, and to proceed with that this year. That's my motion.
Second.
We've had a lot of very good discussion on this agenda item. So we also have a motion from Rich to leave this section of street at its current width to add curb and gutter where it is not currently present, with that project being completed in 2020.
And we're talking redo all the curb and gutter along there because most of it's in bad shape.
Yeah, I was talking about just that one block curb and gutter, Rod.
Yes, yeah, just that section only, yes.
Right.
I take it otherwise it's still the resurfacing of it. You're looking to continue to, with that portion of the project, to resurface, correct, Rich?
Correct.
Now, is the plan to just overlay, or are they gonna grind it out and do it that way?
I believe the plan is to grind it out.
Well, my street's been messed up ever since they overlaid it, so.
We try to avoid overlays as much as we can.
So as we sit right now, there's a motion on the floor.
I think, didn't Jeff second it?
If he did, my apologies. Jeff, did you second that motion?
I did.
Sorry, Jeff, I did not hear that.
It's all right.
Okay, so again, we have a motion by Rich, second by Jeff, to allow the street to remain in its current width. Add curb and gutter to the section that does not currently have it, and to continue with the resurfacing project to be completed in the year 2020. Would the council prefer to have further discussion? Rebecca, is there any public comment on this agenda item?
I did have somebody raise their hand and then they lowered it. So just in case you still want to speak, I'm going to go ahead and unmute Karen Fleeler. And if you feel your concerns were addressed, you can go ahead and remute yourself.
Yeah, this is Bill Fleeler, and I've been listening to the conversation and inadvertently hit the speak button, and I don't think you want me to start speaking. So the conversation's been, sufficient for what I would have had to say as well. I could add that I'm a lifelong resident, the majority of my life in this community. And I've been familiar specifically with the address where I live, which is 401 North Davis, since 1980. And the street has been, as Rich had pointed out, the width that it currently is for as long as I can remember, with no incidents whatsoever, including traffic moving violations or accidents. So I just see very little rationale, and would hope that logic and good decision making would come into play, and it appears it may. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Bill.
Bill, for your comments. If there is no further discussion necessary, Beth will conduct a roll vote.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yeah.
Stout,
Yes.
Crum,
Yes.
Capron,
Yes.
Motion for the Sycamore Street Improvement Project carried unanimously. 8.5, beer and liquor licenses. A, renewal of a Class C liquor license with catering privileges and Sunday sales for Los Tres Agaves Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve by Kay, second by Allen. Any additional comments? Beth?
Capron,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Crum,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Mockart,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Motion to approve liquor license carried unanimous. 8.6, review and approval of current bills.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by John to approve the bills as submitted. Any further discussion? Beth?
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Capron,
Yes.
Crum,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Mockart,
Yes.
Motion to pay bills carried unanimous. 9.0, city administrators report.
Met with the department heads today. As we've been meeting weekly during this pandemic. We are continuing to work on our reopening plans. But at least the feeling today is we're planning to keep public facilities closed to the public through the end of the month. And we'll continue to work on those plans and shoot for June 1st to partially reopen. It may not be, it's not going to be like it was before. It may be things like curbside pickup at the library or appointments at the LCC, but that's our target date to get towards reopening.
Did you discuss rotating times for some of the departments, like, I don't know, streets maybe? Like one person will start at 7 and work to whatever, and another person start at 8 and work to whatever, so that there's not a whole bunch of people in
Yeah.
at the same
so
time.
for the currently we're rotating staff. Most departments are doing a weekly rotation so that we're limiting our exposure, and we don't have a whole department go down. We talked as that would be one potential step where departments may all work during one day, but start at different shifts and stay on different projects in those same groups. So I think similar to what you're saying.
And not until June 1st?
Some of those may come a little bit earlier, but not the reopenings. There may be some of those shift changes earlier.
Well, why
Specifics aren't nailed down yet.
why couldn't they have the full crew working? But like Kay said, somebody come in at 7, somebody come in at 7:30. I mean, if they're going to be on lawnmowers or whatever, they're not going to be close proximity to each other anyway.
It's just handling the same equipment and those sorts of things. As much as we can disinfect, that's great. But I think trying to minimize those surfaces that are shared and things like that. Just being abundantly cautious. The numbers obviously have decreased some, but they're still quite high. And we've had again growth in local cases. I think as time progresses, we may not have hit the peak in Jones County yet. So while the state may be past their highest caseload, I'm not sure Jones County is.
Well, can I say something to that? Because I heard from somebody that they said they saw 2 street department guys driving in a pickup together, not wearing masks. So how are we doing social distancing and worried about that if they're in the same pickup driving around together?
They may be in the same group. We've basically been wearing masks when we're interacting with the public, but we haven't had that as a rule just among other employees. And if they're in the same group, it's not preferred that they're riding in that close proximity, but I don't see that it's a problem. so long as they're not, the main thing is that we're trying to keep the groups from interacting. Otherwise, it kind of ruins the whole plan that we have in place.
I mean, if you're riding in the same truck, though, you're definitely within 6 feet. And I mean, they just say separate vehicles or masks. I mean, I don't even know what. I've never understood why they had to have two guys riding around the same truck. I don't know why they couldn't split up and do different jobs, but that's a whole
Well-
nother discussion.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. They could, 3 guys jump on 3 separate lawnmowers and that's their lawnmower for the week, and they don't have to disinfect because they're the only one touching it. And they're out mowing and doing things. I don't know. I just think that there's some departments that, like streets, that everybody could be working and distance from everybody. They don't all have to be in the same spot at the same time. Now, I get water and wastewater. If you're in a building, that's a different story. But, you know, we got a lot of grass to mow. And
Yep,
I heard it. And I heard a
we
complaint the
discussed
other day
that.
because they were out mowing at 6:30 in the morning and woke people up.
We've discussed the workload. Like I said, that the changes in shift could certainly happen before the 1st of June. I just don't have an exact date when that'll happen.
Be nice to get the sweeper back out. Main Street's looking pretty dirty and a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. And I know it's tough to do with the split shifts, but be nice to see that out running a little bit.
Certainly.
Yeah, that's true.
That is all I had, unless I'm open to questions.
Does the council have any other questions for Jacob at this time?
So in City Hall, you're still alternating,
We are still alternating, yes.
and that's working for everybody satisfactorily?
It's difficult, but I think we're making it work. So
And the anticipated date for that to end is June 1st also, or are you looking to think about earlier times?
I'm probably thinking June 1st, but it's not been hard and fast determined.
That's just a little over 2 weeks away.
3 weeks. 10.0, Mayor and Council's report. 10.1, Mayor's report. I do want to follow up from our last meeting. Myself and Jacob did meet with Olin Telephone on the fiber optic vaults through the eastern portion of town, Caitlin Avenue, Meadow Ridge. We pointed out to the Olin representative some of the, I'll call it worse case vaults. Mentioned our disappointment in the quality of the overall. Some of these vaults, obviously, the ones that we showed them will take, some hands-on to get them up to an acceptable level. And also explained that it was from that point all the way down to maybe just some additional grass seeding on some of the other ones. He understood where we were coming from. He was also in agreement with our concerns. And he set a timeline by the end of May to have these, let's call them reworked. And also that he would go back through 100% of the ones that were laid in to view what level that they were going to be needed to attention. I found it promising. Now it's on them to carry through with the timeline they gave us.
They-
We're looking to be a little bit more, to give a little bit more time. He wound up setting a very aggressive one, I think. And we'll see at the end of the month where he is with that. Jeff, you had,
They've already, yeah, they've already been out. They've made some progress. I saw their trucks out and they've laid some sod down, brought some dirt in. So that's hopeful.
very well. So that was the only thing I wanted to follow up with the council on.
Thank you.
10.2, council reports.
I have nothing to report. Things are pretty well shut down.
Yeah, same with me.
We, go ahead. I don't know who's going to talk.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, I was just going to say we had a technical difficulties with Zoom last week. We're going to reschedule, but Parks and Rec met for a few minutes before our meeting got shut down. I think we had a trial version or something, but only a couple of things with that. The pump room is not going to be able to get scheduled to get redone this year, just due to the contractors and their scheduling with the COVID-19. Just keep our fingers crossed that we get through this year. Won't open the pool until at least June 15th. Obviously, working with Jacob and that on all the city departments, but it's a quick update. We'll continue our meeting tomorrow night.
Thanks for that report, Jeff.
Yep.
Anything else? 11.0, public with business with the council on items not on the agenda.
I will wait just a second to see if anybody raises their hand or sends me a chat. Which I don't see anything coming up.
Okay, thanks, Rebecca. 12.0, closed session.
I'll make a motion to enter into closed session per Iowa State Code Section 21.5J.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by John to go into closed session.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Capron.
Yes.
It was unanimous decision.
All right, I am quick gonna unmute the people who I think are going into closed session. Which
Rebecca, do you see everyone that was on that list on the
So-
call?
I have Andrew Marsh, you guys at City Hall, Jeff Stout, Jim Henson, John Mockhart, Kyle from Lynch Dallas, and Rich Crump ready to go into closed session. Does that sound correct?
That sounds correct.
All right, give me 1 second to get everybody unmuted who needs to come in, and then I will send you guys off. I'm going to open the breakout room. It should take you directly there, but if not, go ahead and click on the thing that says join breakout room. So those in the council chambers, there we go. Jim, do you see how to join?
In a minute. Yep.
All right. For everybody else who is here, we will just wait for the closed session to finish, and they will come back when they're done and ready to vote on what they're talking about during closed session. I don't know how long that will take, but you are all welcome certainly to stay during this time. And then I will go ahead and mute myself. while we wait. Uh, I take it the closed session is done, so I will unmute people as they come back.
So now that we're back into the open session, 12.3, authorization to make offer and or take action is discussed in closed session.
So
So
moved.
I will move that the Anamosa City negotiating team proceed as directed in the closed session.
Second.
We have a motion by Kay, second by Alan, to negotiate the action as discussed in closed session. Any further discussion by the council? Any public comments?
I don't
Beth.
see any.
I'm sorry, Rebecca. I didn't give you enough time there.
No problem. I don't see any.
All right. Beth,
Capron,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Zumba.
Yes.
motion to proceed was unanimous. 13.0 adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
By Rich and John. Motion by Rich, second by John to adjourn. All those in favor signify with aye.
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 Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.